Becky and Nathan were not going to be here this evening, but we spoke and said, we need to be together, and I'm so happy they're here. Can't thank you enough. And then they said, we're going to drag along Sasha, and they dragged her. You did it. I want to apologize in advance. There are moments in this message where it are somewhat graphic, but they have to be said. This is no time to sugarcoat reality. I'm reluctant to speak tonight. And all of you know how much I like to speak from the pulpit. No words seem appropriate. So much blood has been spilled. Too many funerals still need to be conducted. Too many innocent people are missing. So many families are sitting Shiva, the traditional period of 7 days of mourning. There are still terrorists who are loose in the land of Israel. And soldiers are massing at the borders of the state of Israel. The most appropriate words that I can share with you is why I became a rabbi, to teach Torah, to see the world through our tradition, our sacred principles. And that's what I will try to do. The first principle is emet, the Hebrew word for truth, the value of truth, the pursuit of truth. What happened on Saturday? It was an organized, calculated pogrom. Acts of organized killing directed towards Jews. There is no framework in which it can be defended. And nothing has happened like this since the Holocaust. It parallels the Einsatzgruppen, the SS paramilitary death squads of Nazi Germany, who before there were the death camps, Nazis would go around to cities and shoot people, mass shootings. And then they decided that it was cheaper to gas people. Truth. This is not about politics or Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It's about wickedness, the obscene. Truth. Hamas is an organization focused on killing Jews. The Hamas Charter. Hamas murders came into settlements, raped, shot, tortured, and slaughtered, massacred young people who had gathered for a concert, burned people alive in their shelters, gunned down families who were together on Shabbat, tortured grandmothers being visited by their grandchildren, decapitated babies, took hostages, men, women, children, elderly, Holocaust survivors, soldiers. As of now, 1,300 Israelis murdered, including 270 young people, shot and burned at a concert, which would be equivalent to 50,000 US citizens dying in one day. Emet. This is what the Hamas Charter says. On the destruction of Israel, Israel will exist and will continue to exist until Islam will obliterate it just as it obliterated others before it. Peace negotiations. Peace initiatives and so-called peace solutions and international conferences are in contradiction to the principles of the Islamic resistance movement. Those conferences are no more than a means to appoint the infidels as arbitrators in the land of Islam. There's no solution for the Palestinian problem except for jihad. Initiatives, proposals, international conferences are but a waste of time and exercise in futility. And here is the most horrible statement. The day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight Jews and kill them. Then the Jews will hide behind rocks and trees. The rocks and trees will cry out, "O Muslim, there is a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill him." This group wants one thing: kill every Jew on earth. This is what they want to do to every Jew in this room. That is why some people are even afraid to come tonight. And that is why, and I bless them and love them and respect them, they know I do, the security has never been tighter from the Kansas City Police Department so that we can be here. Truth. And if you don't want to hear this, you should leave. Report from Mendy Haviv, the officer in Zakah, which is an organization it's a wonderful organization to give to, that does paramedical work, but also is in charge of collecting bodies to be properly buried. This is what the officer said. "I saw a head cut off. We gathered severed limbs. We found half a burnt body, but we don't know where the other half is. The body shot in all sorts of positions. I was walking between bodies on the pathway of the kibbutz, maneuvering somehow between bodies that are tossed in every direction, and we saw a metal bar stuck piercing a skull, some sort of axe stuck in a head. We saw dogs crying with fears, terrified, shaking. We found a boy burnt on the side of a house in one of the houses of Be'eri. We found a couple tied to each other, shot and burnt. Across from them were 3 children also burnt and shot. Among them was a boy about 4 or 5 years old." Truth. Hamas could care less about the Palestinians in Gaza, who will die in the Israeli campaign. And Hamas has already killed 1,799 Palestinians because they have put their own people in harm's way. And the final truth, another revulsion. Student groups on campuses such as Harvard Undergraduate Palestine Solidarity Committee, which published a statement that, quote, hold the Israeli regime entirely responsible for all unfolding violence in the wake of Hamas's multi-pronged attack on Israel. And 33 other Harvard student organizations signed on. This is what happens on many college campuses in this country. I don't know if I'd send a kid to college anymore. Truth. A Jewish obligation to speak clearly about what is true. Second Jewish value. A horrible value, but it's a value. Milchemet mitzvah, a mitzvah war. In Judaism, there is something called a mitzvah, a religious obligation. In Judaism, we're called to seek peace. It is the greatest of values. But a time war is necessity. A war of self-defense is an example of a milchemet mitzvah. When barbarians seek to destroy and carry out murderous acts, a self-defense war is a necessity. It is obligatory. Israel has been attacked and must defend itself because Hamas wants to destroy them and Hezbollah wants to murder them as well. Third principle, a beautiful one. Pidyon Shvu'im, the liberation of captives. The liberation of captives is one of the most important mitzvot, commandments in Judaism. The story of Abraham saving Lot, his nephew, who had been captured, represents the earliest of a series of examples of the concept of Pidyon Shvu'im, redeeming the captives invariably at a cost. Tradition says that Pidyon Shvu'im is the great mitzvah, mitzvah rabbah, And the great code of Jewish law says redeeming captives takes precedent over sustaining the poor and clothing them. And there is no commandment more important than redeeming captives. We do anything necessary to liberate captives. That Jewish value explains much of what's happening in Israel today. Something I need to say very clearly, because so much is being said that it makes me ill. There's a principle in Judaism called Tohar HaNeshek. It was a concept created before the creation of the state of Israel. It means purity of arms. While Hamas targets civilians, Israel's army is guided by moral principles. And the Israel Defense Forces Code of Ethics include these statements, among many, but the two most important for us is, number one, human dignity. The Israeli Defense Force and its soldiers are obligated to protect human dignity. Every human being is of value regardless of his or her origin, religion, nationality, gender, status, or position. Purity of arms. The Israeli Defense Force servicemen and women will use their weapons and force only for the purpose of their mission, only to the necessary extent, and will maintain their humanity even during combat. The Israeli Defense Force soldiers will not use their weapons and force to harm human beings who are not combatants or prisoners of war, and will do all in their power to avoid causing harm to their lives, bodies, dignity, and property. And even in this war, if a soldier violates this code, they will be prosecuted and go to jail. Israel warns the civil population to get out of harm's way through leaflets, texting, and the like. Innocent people will die if the army invades. But that is not the goal. V'yahavte re'acha kamocha, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The stories that have come forth from Saturday Massacre show again and again neighbors risking their lives and dying to protect their neighbors. Listen to the stories of young men and women who shield others from guns by covering them, taking the bullet to save another human being. Next principle, ometz lev, strength, bravery. Even those who consider themselves fearful or anxious can access the quality of ometz lev, bravery, in any moment. Psalm 27 ends with the exhortation, chazak v'ya'ametz libecha, be strong and strengthen your heart. This verse encourages every one of us to cultivate the inner strength we need to meet whatever challenges emerge. Ometz, the bravery of people who have learned that their son or daughter, husband, wife, friend, or coworker has been murdered. Ometz, the bravery of people who do not know the fate of their loved one. The bravery of those who have sacrificed their lives for others. The bravery of captives. Ometz, the bravery of 360,000 Israelis who have been called up to fight. The children of 360,000 families who do not know whether their fathers will return. Ometz, bravery. The bravery of 360,000 Israelis, accountants, engineers, sanitation workers, construction workers who must take up arms for their nation and face the future with fear. Darchei Shalom, pursuer of peace. This is the dream of the Jewish people. A world where Jews can live in peace without fear of being targets. A world where all human beings can live in peace. A world where we don't need police outside our sanctuary to gather as Jews. We are lovers of peace, but are realists about how hard it is to achieve it. And tragically, sometimes we must kill or die to seek it. Am Yisrael, the nation of Israel, the people of Israel. the Jewish people. For Jews all over the world, the Talmud says, all Jews are responsible for all other Jews. We are the family of Israel. And when any Jew suffers, each one of us suffers. Am Yisrael, a people who are held to an impossible standard. We don't always get it right, but we really tried hard to do so. We are a great people, a holy people, a striving people, a generous people, a loving people, a learned people. We seek partnership with those who seek peace. We seek peace with the Palestinians. We need to work harder at that. The death of any innocent Palestinian torments us. But barbarians such as Hamas, who want to kill us, will not be allowed to do so without experiencing the wrath of our justice. Why can't the world ever give Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, a break? Why, when we defend ourselves, are we treated like pariahs? Is Jewish blood so cheap that it's not worth protecting? Those of you who are not Jews, we need your support. We are a principled people, guided by principles. And we need you to share those principles and stand up with us for the good in the world. Emet, truth. Milchemet mitzvah, a war of mitzvah. Pidyon shvu'im, the liberation of captives. Tohar haneshek, purity of arms. Ve'ahavta re'acha kamocha, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Ometz lev, bravery. Darchei shalom, pursuing peace. Am Yisrael, the people of Israel. We need for you, who are not Jews, to understand that there is a target on our back. When our eyes are filled with tears, we need you to comfort us and reassure us. For the Jew, the world can be a lonely place. For the Jew, we worry that people don't really care and that they don't have our back. And on this Shabbat, we are suffering. All decent people must be affronted by evil. Israel is endangered, and the Jewish people live in fear. Yet on this Shabbat, let us celebrate God. Let us pray that evil will be vanquished. We hope that those who do evil get their appropriate punishment. Let us hope that this tragedy will bring out the best in us, and let us show each other that we really care. We continue with Kol Ha'olam Kulo. The whole world is a narrow place. And the main thing is to not to fear at all. Gesher Tzarma'od.